With the launch of Season 15, Bungie released a giant update that not only adjusted a lot of the weapons in the sandbox, but also brought a lot of much needed buffs to light subclasses. One of those subclasses was Bottom Tree Stormcaller, which was arguably not only the worst Arc Warlock subclass, probably one of the worst light subclasses, period. But with these recent buffs, it could be one of the best Warlock subclasses to run, especially for my solo players, but more on that later. Starting with the super, Bungie changed Landfall to where now it fires 5 arc ground projectiles when cast. This new addition looks pretty epic, but also packs a punch in-game since these arc projectiles travel about 30-ish meters and kill any enemy that comes in contact with them. This alone is already a huge improvement to Landfall, as before to really get a kill you had to be right on top of someone and would often leave them weak only to be shotgunned out of your super. Now if this change wasn't enough, since Landfall fires 5 arc projectiles into the ground, it also does a lot more damage. How much damage do you ask? Enough damage to kill a Titan with 5 resilience or less while inside their Ward of Dawn. This is a big deal because Titans are borderline unkillable in their bubbles, and now as a Warlock we have a super that can be used to directly combat this super, since let's be honest, no one is running Nova Bomb in the Crucible. Moving on to the rest of the changes, you have an adjustment made to your Arc Soul where the duration was increased from 12 to 13 seconds, and the fire rate was increased by 10%. So if you feel like you're being killed more frequently by Arc Buddies, this is why. They're basically doing 10% more damage than they did before, making them great for combating people who love to rush with shotties and allow us to more easily clean up kills with our Arc Buddy getting that finishing kill. Arc Buddies are also great since they are giving you the upper hand in any 1v1 engagement you take. It can be a good replacement, especially when your teammates are lacking in the skill department. For the final change, they adjusted Electrostatic Charge to where now not only does it increase the recharge rate of your Rift when allies are nearby, also allows you to move faster, and for my transversive steps mains, you will love this. Getting just Electrostatic Charge ×1 makes you feel like you're wearing T-steps, and as it stacks up to ×3, it gets crazy fast. This is great for getting early map control with your teammates in modes like Control. You can get to B point first, drop your Rift and create a ton of rifts for you and your teammates, not only to help you, but everyone around you to be better off in their next engagement. Electrostatic Charge was already a great perk that allows you to almost always have your Rift, especially if you're running high recovery, and now this change adds even more utility. Overall, with these changes, Bungie has done a great job of really bringing up Bottom Tree Stormcaller and making a much more viable option in PvP, and arguably, in my opinion, one of the better options now, especially for solo PvP players or players that are often running into stacked teams or feel like maybe lobby balancing is impacting their experience, and so they're getting a lot of lower skill players. And with that, I want to show you guys a build that's going to help you get as many rifts as possible to constantly have your arc buddy up. But the thing I want you guys to keep in mind with this build and this subclass is it's very flexible. You don't have to run exactly what I'm running, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Starting with the exotic, I recommend Aeon Soul. As you can see here with this perk here, Sect of Vigor, gain class ability energy as your allies die, gain full class ability energy when you resurrect an ally, and also as a secondary benefit when you cast your super, nearby allies get an instant burst of healing. This is an amazing perk, an amazing exotic for this specific build, because on top of running it with Electrostatic Charge, which is already going to help you get your Rift back faster and help it last longer when you're nearby enemies, it's also going to stack with that. So as your enemies are also dying, that's going to give you Rift energy. When you're around them, you're going to get faster recharge on top of being able to move faster, and so it just stacks really, really well together and allows you to get your Rift in under 10 seconds in some circumstances, which is pretty insane. And that's going to be nice because we're able to constantly get our Arc Soul, since we do get our Arc Soul when we pop our Rift. Now, I'm going to mention here is I feel like the obvious choice that some people are going to mention is Getaway Artist. Getaway Artist is an amazing option for this build. You can easily swap it out with Aeon Soul, but personally, I don't like the fact that you have to consume your grenade to get that arc buddy, because then I don't have a grenade to ever throw, or very often I'm not going to have a grenade to throw. Versus if I'm running Aeon Soul, I'm getting my rifts so frequently, I'm going to be popping rifts like crazy and not only giving arc buddies to myself, but my teammates as well. And before I even notice it, before my arc buddy's even gone, I'm already going to have a rift 99% of the time because of that recharge rate being so quick. As you guys can see on the screen, the mods I'm running here are just based on the loadout I'm running. Nothing really too specific. I run shotgun dexterity so I can switch to my shotgun faster, as well as hand cannon loader to help my thorn reload faster. Another mods I recommend for this build to just really take things up another level is Double Bomber. Because you're going to be popping your rifts so often, Double Bomber is going to give you that grenade back so frequently because you're getting that rift back every 10 seconds or as quick as 10 seconds, and so it's going to allow you to constantly be getting your grenade back, throwing grenades like crazy, on top of being able to hold things down in your rift using that arc buddy. And then from there, everything else is kind of just standard in terms of stats. I do recommend still going for tier 10 recovery per always. This is going to help with our overall survivability, and also is directly tied to the cooldown of our class ability, which in this case is our Rift. The next thing I recommend is going for Intellect at tier 8. And this is usually the sweet spot where you start hitting those diminishing returns. 4 minutes super recharge time is already pretty good, and I don't try to invest too much more beyond that. Getting into our weapon loadout though, I was using Thorn and Sojourner's Tale here. I like using these weapons because they both have very high handling and allows me to switch between them very quickly for the easy cleanup, either from my shotgun or from my Thorn. Also, of course, with Thorn perk and the Mark of the Devourer, you can get those crispy 2-taps on some of those lower resilience guardians. The awesome thing about this build, as I mentioned, same thing with the exotic, how you can slot in Getaway Artists if you want to. You can even slot in Ophidians, which I didn't really mention. You can also use kind of any loadout you want. Pulses run great with this build because you're gonna be oftentimes just holding things down in your Rift, constantly getting that arc buddy. And if you want to be really obnoxious, an obvious pairing from a weapon standpoint would be No Time to Explain, because then you could get that little turret on top of your arc buddy to just absolutely melt people in the Crucible. I did run a couple of games with No Time to Explain, and it was just too toxic for me. I couldn't put my conscience aside and keep running it. And as I mentioned, Sojourner's Tale, I highly recommend slug shotguns. Doesn't have to be Sojourner's Tale, can be Duality or whatever slug you prefer. I feel like these are head and shoulders above pellet shotguns now. Heavy, doesn't really matter, can run whatever you want. Overall, guys, I love this build, and I think it's going to be the #1 build for you solo PvP players like myself, who are often queuing into 6s by themselves. With the exotic Aeon Soul, you're going to be almost rewarded for your teammates dying, helping you get that class ability energy back very quickly, which can allow you to constantly be popping those rifts, getting constant arc buddies. You're going to have almost 100% uptime with your arc buddies, on top of Electrostatic Charge, which is going to help you move around, get that map control quicker, as well as another way to help you recharge your Rift. Combine that with Double Bomber, you're going to be throwing grenades like it's nobody's business. And because you're constantly peppering your enemies with that arc buddy that now does 10% more damage, that in my opinion pairs very well with Thorn and its burn damage. So you're constantly just going to be taking your enemy from damage, whether it be from the Thorn burn or from the arc buddy, and that's going to do a lot to not only delay the recovery but just output a ton of damage. And then can't forget about Landfall. My recommendation for using Landfall, you can use it more aggressively, but oftentimes because you're trying to get some air and get that Landfall off, your enemies are going to kind of see that coming. So I do recommend using it a little bit more defensively. Get that Landfall off when the enemy team is collapsing on you, get a bunch of kills, and then you kind of go on your tear with Storm Trance after that. Bottom Tree Storm has quickly become one of my favorite subclasses, especially combined with this build I've shown you guys here. It makes running solo Crucible so much more enjoyable because I have a lot more options to keep myself alive, but also help my teammates who may be not as skilled as I and are a little bit of a victim to lobby balancing, giving them that arc buddy, helping them have a Rift to constantly heal in. It's helping you not only slay out, but it's also helping your team slay out, and this is great for solo PvP. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you check out my build playlist right at the top right hand corner of the screen, or my video about the Judgment hand cannon and why you should be farming for that weapon right now.